Start with this book. I'm so intrigued with the title, the subtitle, and where there it is, where this began. Why don't you start, Doctor?
About 8 or 9 months ago, it's hard to believe, Amy and I have been working so hard over the last 8 or 9 months. About 8 or 9 months ago, I went to Amy and I'm just like, Amy, we need to get like these stories in a book, because Amy and I would communicate about the horrifying experiences of our clients. And I'm like, we need to just get them in a book. Let's just do this. And she's like, I am game. Let's do it. And so honestly, I am really we have amazing synergy and we're a great team together. And we just, between our clients and people we knew, we pulled together these 22 contributor stories, the bravest woman you will ever meet, but they are every woman. They are the bravest, but they are every woman who is so brave. So yeah, that was the impetus of it. And we've been working really hard, and we hope that it will be out certainly by the end of July or the beginning of August.
There's a lot of people who are eagerly anticipating the arrival, myself included. Amy, journalist, investigator, award-winning journalist. I don't want to leave that out because it takes a lot to earn that. And I wonder how much of your life was useful when you started telling these stories, the journalism aspect.
That's a great question, because I think that every abuse survivor, and we are both abuse survivors, have their own path to healing, right? And we help women on a daily basis. And for me, getting back to journalism has been incredibly healing, because as Dr. Cocchiola said, we're talking to these women every single day and thinking, what more can we do? I mean, we're helping our coaching clients and her patients, but what more can we do? And I feel like I kind of dusted off some of my journalism skills. I used to be a full-time I-team investigative reporter on TV, and started really writing and shining a light on family court, some specific cases, but also writing some cautionary warning articles for women, which I think this book is too. So I think we both bring our strengths to this project, and it definitely has helped.
Well, let's talk more about the book. You mentioned 22 stories. I, like so many other women, it can become an obsession to find that there are other people like you. How did you find these women, these stories? Were they people who just organically entered your life?
They are people that we have come to know either through the journalism that Amy has done, or my clients or Amy's clients as a divorce coach. And I have to say that this was hard work for them, because they had to succinctly put together their horrifying stories. But to your first point, this is so important. That victims need over and over and over again to hear that they are not alone, that they are not crazy, that that their stories are valid. And you can't hear it too much, honestly. I mean, even myself, this many years after the relationship, sometimes there'll be a little doubt that flies in there, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And so this is about really giving people voice and letting them know that they're not alone. I just want to read Tina Swithin's words here at the back, One Mom's Battle. She says, this book should be a prerequisite for all women. It should be read before marriage, but definitely before divorce or child custody proceedings. As Amy said, this is a warning, like to any woman, that this could happen to you, and you wouldn't for 1 minute suspect that your partner would be willing to do this to you.
And I guess for you, Amy, I'm a journalist too. And I find that people find it really incredulous. Come on, you're strong. You're an investigative reporter. It's hard to believe that you would allow yourself to go through something like this. And matter of fact, maybe we don't believe you. You're very cunning. All these things that I've heard, or there have been these anecdotes related. It's very painful.
Exactly. And I think I love to debunk that myth, right? I mean, narcissists and abusers go after smart, successful women because we have something they don't, right? And so I often say, if I, as an investigative reporter, could have fallen for someone like this, anybody can, right? And so we know that these stories will validate for women who have fallen prey to these abusers, that they're not alone, they're not stupid, they're not naive. I often tell my clients, the only mistake you made is you were a good person. I mean, you believed in the good of humanity. So we also hope that, there might be people in relationships right now who sense something's a little off, but I don't know what, right? For some of us, we started Googling, I did pathological liar, and it led me down this rabbit hole to narcissism, right? And probably every book in this bookcase is about that now. We hope this helps some women say, you know what? I'm just like this Kathy I'm reading about. Like my husband I'm noticing these kinds of behaviors, and it should be a red flag for them.
Dr. Cocchiola, you said that this is a warning and every woman should read this book. What about court officials who seem woefully inept, they've been to law school, many of them, and they don't seem to get the basics here. We hear about this kind of, this training. They don't know the first thing about coercive control, narcissistic abuse. They don't even want to read the documentation, which has so many layers and layers, because when people are, as Amy said, pathological liars, these are deep roots that they plant. What about that? Should everyone in the court system attach to it? Should this be required reading?
That would be our dream. Our dream is that every lawyer, every guardian ad litem, forensic evaluator, custody evaluator, that everyone, therapists, that we need to stop gaslighting our clients and the institutional betrayal. This book is about institutional betrayal. So as Amy said, it is the red flags and the warnings of your relationship. And maybe you'll say, oh, that happened to me like it happened to that person, Kathy, the contributor, or whoever they decide that sounds like them. But the reality is it's about how complicit the court system has become in ignoring the pathology of abusers. And we really need to pivot to the perpetrators. And we're not allowed to say narcissistic abuser in court. And as a coercive control expert, I can tell you over and over again, they are allowing coercive control experts into the court system, but it's the same idea. It's this, but how bad was it really? How bad was it really? And if there wasn't physical violence, and coercive control includes physical violence, however, oftentimes it doesn't start off that way. And so when it hasn't become physically violent, and when it does, we know it's often the most horrifying. This is when femicides and filicides occur. But when it doesn't include physical violence, the minimization of the experiences of victims is tenfold. And it's quite outrageous. It's arrogant. It's almost, to me, and I know Amy would agree, and I'm sure you will, is that it's almost like there are abusers in the system. It's mind-blowing, the harm that continues to happen. And you probably know this about me, but my niche in particular is helping protective parents to parent their children and support them. And no judges are not, I'm not going to say no judges. Judges are not looking at the psychological trauma to children when they are forced into time with abusive parents.
Yeah, and the manipulation. It does seem, though, we'll stick with the court system. Some of these guardians, forensic evaluators, they work really hard not to believe and to debunk these stories. And it's interesting that you mentioned that point, Doctor, about, how they don't seem to want to believe it and, minimalize it, and that they may indeed be abusers themselves. We don't know. We're not really allowed to know much about their personal backgrounds, but it does feel that way. I wonder if you, Amy, can talk about the residual. It seems like you go through this and you're still feeling the effects, still going through it oftentimes, but still feeling the effects even after the relationship ends.
Right. And I think, as Dr. Cocchiola said, there is a compound trauma, right? There's a secondary trauma, which is the institutional betrayal. And let's be honest, people are making a lot of money in this court system. We are incredibly grateful to Dr. Romani for writing our foreword, and she talks about it. It's a cottage industry, and a lot of people are benefiting from this. What motivation do they have to believe victims? And there is empirical data, which we include in the book, that shows that women are not believed, less than half the time when they report abuse. So this isn't just one person's story, and you can't discount somebody else. I truly believe that we need a grassroots social justice movement, as we've seen in our history in this country, in order to turn the tables on this. We hope our book, to your point, not just educates, but exposes and almost shames these people who are allowing this to happen. These stories are heartbreaking. It's not going to be an easy read for anybody. We're not going to promise you it's going to be fun, okay? But it is necessary.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the trauma. Doctor, what can be done, though? Amy talks about this grassroots movement. How can we do that? When Nicole Simpson was murdered brutally, Ron Goldman, there was this shift in how police deal with domestic violence calls. Still not enough, but there was a shift. When so many people are going through this, most women are tight-lipped, and then the floodgate opens when they meet someone just like them. What can we do?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think perpetrators consistently silence victims. And now what we see and what we know is the family court also silences victims. So we need to, if you can speak up, you need to speak up. I think the other thing is we're working in silos. There's people I hear this from moms all the time, and I know Amy does too. Like, it's so bad in Ohio, or it's so bad in Georgia. Well, guess what? It's bad everywhere. And what would happen if everyone united together? It sounds like a pipe dream again, but really what we need is a lot of people together networking and having this conversation. And I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting that guardian ad litems are abusers at home. I'm suggesting that when they come into the court system, that they are more, as Amy said, more inclined to take the monetary benefits of coming out with 50-50. This is what we see happening all the time, is that, you know what, you can hire me, but my bias is myself, not the welfare of the children. And I took the GAL training here in the state of Connecticut because I wanted to just get an inside view of what it was. And what I really recognized in listening to the training was that if I was a person who kept on speaking up for children's welfare, that children don't belong in abusers' care, that I would not be hired again. In other words, judges get in their mind, they know who are the people that make this a simple process, 50-50. No argument, right? Or judges make it clear, or attorneys will not hire people who have the best interests of children in play. And then let's just add on this other layer. If I'm an abuser and you are saying I'm an abuser and you're saying I hurt your children, or even if I just hurt you, I'm going to call you an alienator. And if I call you an alienator, then guess what? No one's going to side with you. And so we really need to look at the pathology of abusers and understand this is their playbook. It's called, as we call in the book, the abuser's playbook, because it's their playbook. It's the way that they roll.
Yeah, I've often heard women say it's like my ex has a playbook. I mean, he can't be this smart, who creates these layers? And you have an attorney who may say, listen, Amy, you can't anticipate every move he makes because you're not this way. You're not devilish. You're just, you're a caring mom. But it is interesting, scary that they all seem to go to this, and yet it's the blueprint is there and it's rubber stamped.
As a divorce coach, I'm helping women who are oftentimes at the beginning of the divorce process and introducing them into this crazy upside down world of family court, because sometimes they're walking into, the devil's lair here. They don't know what is going to happen next. But, to your point, there is a playbook. And I think, it is the abuser. I think they're talking. I think men's rights movements have organized and they have spread the word, file an emergency ex parte motion, which, as we know, they can get custody in an emergency, and that temporary order then becomes permanent. They do all these things, but they also have attorneys who are helping them. I often say to my clients, you'd think as a divorce coach, I would have a list of 100 great attorneys to give you as referrals.
I was going to ask.
But we say to each other all the time, okay, I had 5. Now I'm down to 3. Now maybe I've got 2, like in my state where I know the most people. And that's the reality of it, because I had an attorney tell a client of mine, I'm not about to die on this hill for you. So they're not going to tick off the judge, get the other attorney who they're at their country club with that weekend, mad at them. They're going to be in front of that judge an hour later with another client. They're looking out for themselves. And that's why we need a much larger, huge light on this whole world.
Yeah. MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, some of these just incredible organizations that push the boulder uphill. Do you want to read some of the excerpts from the book?
So this is Kathy's story, and it's called Fairy Tale Gone Wrong. She said, my therapist described my image of our young relationship from my perspective, a beautiful golden statue, but every lie, every hurt, every time he would take a piece of me, year after year, it was like another layer of cement being poured on top. And finally, there was not even a hint of gold to be seen or a vision of the sparkling, conjured image that once stood in my garden. I've been divorced now for 8 years and into the 11th year of financial abuse, litigation abuse, emotional abuse, and more. What I've suffered at the hands of my ex, his attorney, and the family court is so mind-blowing that there are no words to express what I've experienced and watched others endure, the same and even worse. I don't consider myself naive or stupid. I just didn't realize there could be someone posing as a human being who pretended to love me, who could be so dark and evil and twisted. It's something I have come to understand is likely narcissistic personality disorder. Now, gazing at the emperor with his clothes off, I see everything. I've lost count of how many times I've moved in the last 5 years with my children because he owes me and my family hundreds of thousands of dollars. He lives like a millionaire with a house, cars, vacation homes, and more. 10 years and counting. I'm trying to move on with my life. But I know I am anything but alone. There are thousands and thousands of us. I just want to say that, we're not diagnosing anyone with narcissistic personality disorder, right? I know there's some controversy over that, but I always say to my clients, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. We're going to treat it like a duck. It's a narcissist.
Sure.
That narcissistic behavior we're seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, Dr. Ramani and I just recently spoke in Dubai together at 2 mental health conferences.
Wow.
And she and I agree that not all narcissists are coercive controllers, but all coercive controllers are narcissistic abusers. And if we can really look and again pivot towards the perpetrator and their behaviors, I'm going to read the story of Gwen, and the title of her story is "I'm Drowning." And just to give you a little bit of a background on Gwen, so she meets her partner, falls in love, all of those wonderful things we feel at the beginning of a relationship, and then she has a child with him and realizes the relationship is abusive and decides to try to escape. And when she does, he turns her child against her. So the daily anguish is unbearable as I grapple with the heart-wrenching reality that my only child, my entire world, has been subjected to severe manipulation, leading him to believe that I am the one at fault. He now perceives our shared experiences, cherished vacations, and countless joyous moments as non-existent, labeling them as fabrications. He holds on to unfounded accusations of my deceit, unable to articulate what those supposed lies entail. The years of carefree childhood memories spent outdoors with friends, the laughter and warmth shared during those times are now rewritten as non-existent events. False allegations about me tarnishing his childhood haunt our relationship. The repercussions of his estrangement extend beyond our immediate bond. He has distanced himself significantly from every person connected to me, viewing them as adversaries, despite their unwavering love and support for him. This weaponization of my son against me has led to a seismic impact, severing ties with lifelong family, friends, devoted grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, therapists, teachers, and anyone who has extended a helping hand or shown him support. The only support network available to him comprises individuals aligned with Richard's perspective, his dad, chosen and approved by Richard himself.
Boy, just the layers. And, as you were reading that, I was praying that at some point there will be this revelation. We all grow up one day and realize who our parents are, the good, the not so good, but never like this, hopefully. And I just don't know. The punishment here is so severe. We're almost out of time, but I want to know where people can find you, find your great work. And boy, I hope to talk to you all again, because when you talk about the need for all of us to band together and get something done, politically even, there's just got to be a way. I really do believe it. But where can we get framed and when? And reach out to you all. And I know, Amy, you both probably have courses.
Yeah, you can find out about Framed on our website, which is narcfreepress.com. And we also have a book launch team we'd love for you to be a part of if you are passionate about this. We have many women in that group, and that's on Facebook. You can just search Framed Book Launch Team. This will be available for pre-order at the end of July, and our release date is October 1st to coincide with Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So you can find me at freedomwarrior.info. And I did create a course called Divorce Decoded for women because I felt that there's nothing out there warning them about family court. So I have a huge module of do this, don't do this, this could happen, and I feel like I've tried to pack everything in there that I did not know and I wish I had.
How about you, Dr. Cocchiola?
Yeah, people can find me at Coercive Control Consulting or iknowyourheart.com. And I have a protective parenting program where I guide protective parents on how best to parent their children so that situations like Gwen's, maybe we can actually shift it a little bit so that that child begins to get clarity. In addition to that, I also have a clinician's training and a coach and attorney training where I teach them everything soup to nuts, coercive control, all of the nuances of this abuse so that people who really want to be empowered in the family court system can actually have that information. So
it's unfair with just 2 minutes or 1.5 to go, but do you think it would be worthwhile if there were separate courts? Like they had domestic abuse court or DUI court, where people are so trained and so invested in the truth that you could cut through some of these people who are just, rubber stamping 50-50.
I think that would be amazing. We've had those pilot type courts in Massachusetts and in Connecticut and probably elsewhere. I think there's a tricky thing that a lot of people don't talk about. And that is most people who look at domestic violence, and that's why I like to use domestic abuse, are always looking through the violent incident model. And even these trainings that a lot of judges are going through all of the time are based on the violent incident model, which is frankly archaic and wrong. And so I think what we need is a rehaul. Let's start talking about how this abuse very often starts off covertly. It's nuanced, it's insidious, and it may become violent, but that's not the defining characteristic. So,
wow. You all are going to make me cry, but it's actually tears of joy because I've discovered, people like you're at the forefront. And this book is just going to be incredible and a resource for so many. I thank you. And I hope this is not the last time that we get to speak. Thank you so much for sharing. And I look forward to reading the book cover to cover and sharing it with so many friends who feel like they just have no outlet. Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing. And we really appreciate it. And we would love to come back.